Hello friends, old and new. Great to see you. In today's project, I'll be taking you on a smooth journey. I will show you how to make pine nut butter and pine nut praline paste. If you are wondering why, well, because I wanted to try a different type of bread spread other than the usual peanut butter. This isn't available at my local shops, and I was curious. Let's start. First, you will need some pine nuts. This project is only worth it if you do a relatively large amount, like about 1 kilo. I understand that they aren't cheap, but they are indeed delicious and they will be worth it. I'm going to add some heat to the pine nuts to bring out the flavor. Grab a large baking tray and line it with some baking paper. The baking paper is optional, but I find that it helps when I want to lift all the pine nuts out of the tray later. Pour a good amount, but do not overfill the baking tray with the pine nuts. Let's say about 1 pine nut in height is a good amount. Make sure you really spread it all over the baking tray. This will roast evenly. Also, make sure you move them around from time to time. The roasted color is entirely up to you. Just remember, the darker the roast, the deeper the flavor. If you don't want to use the oven method, you can always toast them in a pan. It is entirely up to you. Just remember, do not overfill the pan either. Turn on the flame and be on standby to stir, or if you are confident enough, you can toss them. Let me tell you something. When I tossed them the first time, I dropped them everywhere, so I had to practice before I started recording. Once they started looking like this, I decided to take them off from the heat. After you have toasted your desired amount, here I have about 1 kilo of pine nuts. I decided to throw in some sea salt, a good pinch. Do not over salt, because you can always add later on, but once you add it now, it becomes quite hard to take away the salt. The next thing I want to show you is the device or tool that will help in making all of this possible. I managed to get this whetstone grinder from eBay for second hand, and this is my first project using it. I love eBay auctions, as I got a really good price for this at about £36. eBay didn't sponsor me or this video to say this, it's just my opinion. Sometimes there's some really good bargains on some kitchen accessories and tools, so keep a lookout. Pour some in, let it get crushed by the 2 stone wheels. Do not pour the whole lot of it in and then cause it to jam. When it jams, the machine will stop. That is what happened to me, and I'm not going to show you because it did jam and that is a little bit embarrassing. So what I had to do is I had to empty out the entire machine and then I had to record it again like what I'm showing you now. Do it in stages after it has broken down to more manageable pieces. I did it about 5 times with a 5-minute interval. They do get broken down pretty fast. Over here in the middle of the 2 stone wheels is the scraping arm to guide and scrape the cylinder. This is honestly so mesmerizing to watch. Also, as tempting as it is, do not stick your finger in there. Let this go on for about 1 hour. After 1 hour, let's come back to check. It has gone from this kind of consistency to this. You can also make this in a food processor or blender, but you won't get that super smooth result that I'm after. The whetstone grinder is designed to go on for hours and to really grind down the product you put into it. This can also do other nuts, seeds, chocolate, sesame and various other things. But in today's project, we're only doing pine nuts. To be absolutely satisfied, I left it going for about 5 hours, with about a 30-minute break in between each hour to allow the motor to rest. I really wanted to see how smooth I can take the mixture to. It looks pretty smooth, and there you have it, super smooth pine nut butter. If you want it a little chunky, toss some smashed up pine nuts back into it and enjoy it plain, or in this case, slightly salted. Now, that is project part 1 of making pine nut butter. And then here we go for the second part of pine nut praline paste. I did it in this separate fashion to show you both variations. So, we have used 1 kilo of pine nut butter. Now I'm going to make the caramel. Praline is usually made with almonds or hazelnut, but hey, today let's try something different like this. I'm going to make 750 grams worth of caramel, in this case dry caramel. You can also think of it as 75% caramel to pine nut ratio because it's 1 kilo of pine nuts. Take a pot and heat it up. Pour in a small amount of the sugar. Let that melt and do not stir. Once the sides start to melt, you can add some more sugar into the pot. After the sugar has melted some more, then you can stir to help it a little. You can go ahead and pour in all of the sugar. Let it go on medium to low fire. Keep it moving. We want the sugar to reach 165 degrees Celsius. After it has reached the desired temperature, get yourself a tray and line it with some baking paper on the top. Also, Make sure you place something on the top of your table to protect it, as the caramel is going to be super hot. Pour the caramel over the baking paper and leave it to one side to cool. Let's come back after 1 hour. In the meantime, the whetstone grinder is still going. Now you have a cooled solid piece of caramel. Usually in a more traditional sense, when you make the praline, after you make the caramel, you would put in your warm pine nuts or whatever nuts you had decided to use. But in this case, because I had already made the pine nut butter, I'm doing it in that kind of sequence. And because the caramel is separate to the pine nuts, we're going to have to break it down. I would suggest breaking it up as much as you can to assist the whetstone grinder. I took the time to make it into a powder to speed up the process. However, the whetstone grinder can take bigger pieces. Just remember, bigger pieces equals more time. If you're not pressed on time, then you can toss in larger pieces than the powder I've just made as well. But also do that in stages, because you do not want to jam up your machine. This is how fast the mixture is moving. There is usually only one speed with these type of devices. On a side note, I am just using my rubber spatula to guide and help scrape the sides and stone wheels. I also find this rather calming to watch it come together. Now, again, after 1 hour and after I have put in all of the caramel pieces into the mixture, I've decided to come back with a piece of toast because I was hungry and it was dinner time. I have some butter and of course, the pine nut praline paste. Even though this is more like a breakfast item, it is actually dinner time right now. Here goes, guys. I'm gonna have a bite. Let me just take a moment to nod at this achievement and contemplate at life. I've just exhaled at how delicious this is. It's so simple, yet a powerful impact of nutty and rich caramel flavor, plus the butter and toasted bread. It is so good. After I filmed myself, I had to pause and eat 2 more. And then I washed it down with a nice tall glass of cold, full-fat milk. I went to bed happy that evening. The next day, this is ready now. I'm using a pair of gloves because this can get messy. I'm just removing the stone grinder to take out the mixture. I'm just transferring it into a bowl. You can keep this in a mason jar with a rubber seal at room temperature for a good few months, if it will last a few months. Now, I want to see if I can make it even smoother. I got myself a nut milk bag, and this is used for making nut milk like almond milk. I'm only using this as an insurance. I'll explain why in a moment. Actually, to think about it, what about pine nut milk? Maybe another episode. I need to test this out one day. Grab yourself the bag and pour in the mixture and give it a good strain. I'm going to do it over a tray to catch everything. This part is of course just optional. I'm just massaging the bag to allow the mixture to come out of it. That just looks bloody smooth. Let's take a look at what's inside the bag. It looks rough, but as I am pressing it between my fingertips, it naturally breaks down. I suppose it's all the things that didn't really break down, like perhaps some toasted bits as I was roasting it or toasting it. It feels almost like husk, but as I was looking at the pine nuts after buying them, there's not really much of the husk or skins or any kind of external elements. But hey, this was just optional. It was pretty smooth already. But like I said, if you are not bothered by it, then don't worry about the nut milk bag step. And of course, this wouldn't be an Avery Rason channel if I didn't bring something on that was totally unnecessary, but I will do it anyways. I got myself here a white card and a glass top. This glass top is going to help me show you how smooth this is in the next step. I'm going to put some of the mixture in the middle of the glass top. The next thing that I'm going to show you is the glass muller. It looks something like this. This is used for making, or more like mixing, oil/emulsion paints. Also over here, the particles are so small that my tongue can't even tell if there's anything or not. It's that smooth. Because this thing is made of glass, you can then see if things aren't mixed well. Also, to illustrate any imperfections in the mixture after straining it, I'm going to use my camera light and shine the glass muller from the bottom. From this, you can then see the opacity of the mixture, and it is super smooth. If it was grainy, or if there were any specks of unwanted items, it will be picked up. Because the glass muller acts like a magnifying glass and you can see right through it. Also, the more you use the muller, the more it will become even smoother and emulsified. I'm just going extra over and beyond here. Here, after some revolutions with the muller, and with the help of my camera light again, let me show you. It looks epically creamy. Well, enough of playing with my food. There you have it, pine nut butter and pine nut praline paste. I hope you've enjoyed what you've watched today. If you did, press the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and leave a comment. Until next time, and like the pine nut praline paste, stay smooth everybody. Bye for now.